This is Osama bin Laden, once crowned the world's most wanted terrorist. Under his leadership, Al-Qaeda pilots were trained to crash Boeing planes, long before Boeing planes crashed by themselves. Twin towers, large dust clouds, brave firefighters running toward chaos. Sound familiar? Yep, in the end, it took the US nearly 10 years to hunt this terrorist leader down, from the smoldering twisted steel of Ground Zero to a quiet suburb in Abbottabad, Pakistan. I'm sorry, where? A goat fuck do I know somewhere city in a somewhere province of somewhere Pakistan. Anyway, in this video we will dive into the attacks on 9/11, the decade-long manhunt for the mastermind behind this plot, and the raid on the guy's chill mansion in that goat love-making place which we just mentioned. Now, to understand how bin Laden was able to pull off an attack of this magnitude, we have to go back to the Soviet-Afghan War of 1979 to 1989. So during those years, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan because the Soviet Union was a superpower, and superpowers tend to mess around in South Asia and the Middle East. No history book required there. Now, after the Soviet Union was done invading and stuff, they shift changed with the Americans, who were slowly prepping for another shitshow known as the Gulf War. During these years, a young fighter moved through the ranks and started to build a network of militants and financial backers. These guys eventually formed Al-Qaeda, a militant group who would continue the fight for defending Muslims worldwide. And by defending, we mean blowing stuff up while screaming, "God is the goat." Now, over the years, this militant group prepared their master project, an attack on the US, by hijacking commercial airliners and flying them into buildings. Spoiler alert, they actually succeeded. Well, mostly, since 4 hijackers on Flight 93 were getting their heads caved in by an angry mob of passengers before crashing their plane into a field. So, in the aftermath of the US attacks, President George W. Bush declared a war on terror, which the average American interpreted as "don't trust people with beards." So, in October 2001, President George W. Bush launched the US invasion of Afghanistan. The mission statement was simple, almost cute really. Destroy Al-Qaeda, remove the Taliban, stop terrorism forever. Easy. Bombs dropped, the Taliban folded fast, and Kabul fell. From the outside, it looks like the US closed the net around bin Laden in speedrun fashion. Except the net was full of holes. During the Battle of Tora Bora, the US relied heavily on Afghan militias for ground operations, which were not exactly the right people for the job. And additionally, the US upheld confidence that air power was enough to do the job. And ironically, the same confidence was shown by Al-Qaeda 3 months earlier. Sadly, their confidence was a bit more legitimate. Meanwhile, bin Laden and his group of fighters moved through a web of tunnels GLA style, while crossing the border into Pakistan. After the massive intelligence failure at Tora Bora, years of silence followed. The CIA had little information to go on. No verified selfies from bin Laden with bearded emojis. No shared locations, just a bunch of audio and video rants sent from a cave shouting "Gula blah 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 blah, death to America, zero chill, maximum rage quit" without actually quitting. Because phones and the internet were not used and bin Laden kept mobile using safe houses and tribal connections, the focus gradually moved away from the person to the network. This network involved financiers, planners, security operatives, and couriers, and some were followed, some were interrogated. So this is an example of a courier being followed, and this is an example of a courier being interrogated. After this went on for some time, there was one particular courier who caught the CIA's attention. By mapping his routes, the courier led the intelligence analysts to a peculiar-looking building in a suburb in Abbottabad, Pakistan. This building had thick walls all around. However, there was no internet, no phone lines, and no letterbox with a sticker saying "No advertisement mail, your boy Osama." So, despite not being sure the target was in the compound, there were enough leads for the Americans to start prepping SEAL Team 6 for a visit. And by prepping, I mean SEAL Team 6 style prepping. That means building a replica of the entire compound and starting to play war games like it was frickin' CSGO server. After weeks of intensive training, President Barack Obama gave the go-ahead for Operation Neptune Spear, in the hopes bin Laden was, well, actually hurt. 2 modified stealth Black Hawk helicopters picked up the Navy SEALs from a US base somewhere in Afghanistan. They flew covertly at night across Pakistan to reach Abbottabad. And upon arriving in pitch-black darkness, one of the helicopters immediately crashed inside the compound. Al-Qaeda pilots are taking notes. Now, despite the crash, the SEAL teams moved quickly, blasting walls and doors as they worked their way to the upper floors. And while doing so, they shot and killed a few couriers and some bodyguards. And this bodyguard is now teabagged for some dramatic purposes. Reaching the 3rd floor, the SEAL team moved inside another room. In front of them stood a bodyguard raising his weapon. Shots were fired, and the defender fell dead to the floor. Through the smoke, a silhouette appeared in the back of the room. The SEALs aimed their weapons and recognized the individual. It was Osama bin Laden himself. Reports of what happened next vary. Not that it matters a lot, because, the SEALs were there to kill the guy. That's exactly what they did. Nearby, one of Osama's wives was shot in the leg, added kitchen and return key emoji. While restraining more civilians, the men also collected hard drives, laptops, mobile phones, and the dead body of bin Laden for identification. When the SEALs exited the building, the damaged helicopter was blown up. Immediately after, the whole team boarded the remaining Black Hawk, a cloud of dust was kicked up by the rotor blades, and the helicopter disappeared into the dark night. After the Navy SEAL team arrived safely back at the US base in Afghanistan, the body of bin Laden was moved to the carrier USS Carl Vinson for a burial at sea. Meanwhile, the CIA plowed through the evidence taken from the compound. Besides tons of valuable information, analysts also found a few things they were not expecting at all. For example, cartoons of Tom and Jerry, an episode of Mr. Bean, a documentary about sex crimes in the Vatican, and the viral YouTube video Charlie Bit My Finger. Additionally, his laptop contained the shooter game Counter-Strike. He probably wasn't any good. Otherwise, he would have checked double doors and wall-banged a few of those counter-terrorists running up and down his stairs. What a noob. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this video about the world's most wanted terrorist. We've got tons more videos exploring all the dark chapters of history. Check out more epic videos on our channel, or even better, become a Patreon or YouTube member. Check the links in the description. See you next time.